at 2 o'clock. So if I appear to be rude when I whisk her off the stage, it's because she has to be somewhere else, and they're going to be waiting for her anxiously to hear her story. So I will give her some cues, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but that's what's going to happen, so I do apologize for that. Dr. Ingerblacher is a child survivor of the Holocaust. She spent 3 years at the Terezin concentration camp in Czechoslovakia. She was born in Germany. She's a retired chemist and an author who has 6 books that are published in 9 languages. She was the recipient of many awards, including the Ellis Island Medal of Honor, together with Hillary Clinton and John Glenn. An honorary Doctor of Human Letters from Long Island University. She won the Citizen Award from the Board of Regents in New York State. She was declared a Woman of Distinction from the New York Senate. She has 2 prestigious awards from Germany, including one from the President. She's an honorary member of the Blackfeet Nation of Montana, and far too many to mention. She has spoken to thousands of individuals around the world, and we are extremely grateful to have Holocaust survivor Dr. Inger Albacher.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, by the way, Grace. Thank you. You did a good job. That's for me to do my job. Part of the time I will sit. You heard a lot this morning, the etiology of what happened, so I'm not going to go into that. Who was killed, who was responsible and all that. You're going to hear from me the personal side of what happened. And when I was in the last breakout session, and the gentleman, I don't know his name, the lawyer, he mentioned all these things, the places and so forth, and I had family members in almost every single one of them. So I'm tied to all this very deeply. I want to take you on a journey of my early years in Germany and during my 4 years in the concentration camp and a little bit after what happened. So I will talk to you about all these things from a personal side. Next, please. I was born in a little village in southwestern Germany called Kippenheim, very close to the French-Swiss border. And we had a population of about 2,000 people, 60 Jewish families, and we lived happily together. And I was the last Jewish child born in that village. Next. I'm going to sit down because I can see the pictures better from here. Everybody can hear me, right?
Right.
Yes. I'm born in this house, which we owned at least 100 years, very large house. And when you look on the second floor, those 2 windows, I was born in that room, my parents' bedroom. And there was only one doctor, no hospital. In fact, the doctor already belonged to the Nazi Party. I was born December 31, 1934. Yes, I know how old I am. 84 years young, almost 85. That numbers are just numbers. Because I intend to stay around till at least 120 years. That's the age of old. So up to 121. And the doctor was dressed already, dressed in the Nazi uniform, And he took very good care of his Jewish patients. And you have choices in life. Later on, he did some terrible things. We just heard about the Nuremberg trial. And he did probably euthanasia, killing people with medical difficulties, the unwanted, let's put it this way. And he was jailed for many years. And I have proof of that because we have one lady from Kippenheim who was part of the Nuremberg trials as an interpreter. She knew German and English. And she checked up on this doctor, and she said, yes, indeed, he did some terrible things. And he was in prison for many years, never saw him again. But you have choices. Either you stay a good person, you have to have a conscience, or you choose bad to try to further your career, but you also have to think, well, how this will work out later on. You have to have a conscience. Next. I was an only child. My father was a merchant, small time, and he already had a car. And when he proposed to my mother, he came with this bright, shiny car. Not many people had cars at that time. And so when she told her girlfriends, my beau has a car, she was so proud. You know, and it made all her girlfriends jealous. And I don't know, they got married. I don't know, did she marry the car or she married the car? They were married for over 52 years, very happily. But I always wanted an older brother. He never came. My father was a soldier in World War I. Jewish people lived in Germany way over 1,000 years. And they were very integrated into German society. There never were more than about 500,000 Jews living in Germany. That was it, less than 1%. In Poland, it was much more, and in Hungary and other countries. But we only had that small amount. And he was wounded very badly and had the Iron Cross like you have the Purple Heart. And very proud German citizens. My great-grandmother had 14 children. She had 4 sons in World War I, and 2 died for the country. And later on, they killed some of the others. Think about it. Here I am in my sandbox, thinking already, I'm going to be a scientist. And these were my first experiments of science, making wonderful mud pies and tasted delicious. Here we are, an excursion to the Black Forest, which was very near, but I think one of the most beautiful areas in Germany is the Black Forest. My parents gave me a real German name, Inge, I-N-G-E, and wearing this typical German dress, the dirndl dress. And they wanted me to blend in because when I was born, I mean, Hitler had already cut into power. And 6 months later, I lost my citizenship. All Jews did. Lost their citizenship. We were stateless. Next. Here's a very special tower that I love running around. It has much more of a story, but I'm going to cut it short with that because I want you to have more time with other things. Next. The time is now 1938. It was the first major riot in modern times against the Jewish people, Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, which actually encompassed 2 days, November 9th and 10th, 1938, in Austria and in Germany. My grandparents, my mother's side, lived about 200 miles away. My father's parents, I never knew. They had died before his marriage to my mother. And we were modern Orthodox. You can see my grandfather, he's wearing his head covered. Orthodox boys and men should have their head covered to honor God, because God is supposed to be always above you. And in the Christian religion, of course, you take your hat off when you go to church, except the Pope and the Cardinals. They also wear a skull cap, and you stole that from us. There's something very special here. I'm holding a doll. My doll would be the only thing that I could keep over those years, and I brought her to America. When I got off the boat, my doll was in my arms. It was a gift from my grandmother when I was 2 years old. And I found out much later what her real name was. I gave her a name. She had blonde hair and blue eyes. And I named her after the famous movie star Marlene Dietrich. I mean, I'm sure some of you probably know, but the younger people here, you've heard about Marilyn Monroe, right? Not even that, okay. Well, okay. Well, let's say you have one of the real sexy movie stars today, blonde hair, blue eyes, and I wanted her to have a name like that because of she had hair and eyes like that. But I was speaking in German, which I do many times, because my German is still very good. And one lady saw this, she said, "You had a famous star." I said, "Well, for me, she was famous, blue eyes, blonde hair." And she said, "You know, that doll was made for the 1936 Olympics. And the model's name was Inga." Can you imagine? They even had a doll for that, with an Olympic roll hairdo. And that is when our sprinter, Jesse Owens, got many awards, and Hitler did not want to shake hands with him because he was black. Such hate. So that was my doll story. And we made a film, the Olympic Doll, which is sold up in Canada, an educational company. Next. Grandpa went in the morning to the synagogue. It was November 10th in our village. There were 2 days of riot, November 9th and 10th. He went to say his prayers in a beautiful synagogue. He was ripped away from his prayers and sent to the Dachau concentration camp. There were 2 major concentration camps in those days. In one area it was Dachau, an hour, and some other areas, Buchenwald, where all men from the age of 16, boys and men, were sent to concentration camps. And my father went a little later. They picked him up at home. The police came and also took him to Dachau. And then I show you now, next please, what the synagogue looked like, beautiful with chandeliers. And we had a cantor. In the Jewish faith, you have a cantor and you have a rabbi. But in our case, because you needed somebody with a good voice, because most of our prayers are sung. So he did a double duty. He became the rabbi and the cantor at the same time. I hope he got paid twice. Anyway, this beautiful building was destroyed. All synagogues in Austria and in Germany either burned to the ground or desecrated very badly. In our case, they started to burn it, but there were Christian houses nearby. And they decided, well, we don't want the houses to burn down, but they desecrated the building very badly. Somebody had this picture up in the attic for many years, and before dying, decided to give it to us. And we're very grateful for that. And here you see even children watching our holy scrolls, which we call the Torah, on which the Old Testament is written by hand on parchment. In fact, we treat the Torah as important as a human being. It's a living thing. And here, everything is destroyed. We have an Orthodox service. The women were upstairs, the men were down. But I, being the youngest, I always went with the men, making lots of noise. Next. Now, the men are all gone. And we didn't even know where they were. But somehow, after a few weeks, they decided to let them go again. Let's give them a little taste what will come. We never wanted to leave Germany. It was our home. My grandfather for sure, he said, I'm born here. I was also fighting in World War I. And certainly my father, he said, that crazy Hitler, he's going to go away. I mean, the German people are too intelligent for that they wouldn't let somebody like that rule. But it wasn't like that. It changed. And the German people followed him with glee, for the most part. They loved the parades, the singing, the whole, I mean, don't forget, there was a very big depression at that time, over the whole world, basically. And he promised everything, you will have this, you will have that. And they thought, well, we'll have a better life. And that's when you, join parties and things which will bring you to a terrible situation. And that's what I'm worried today in Germany with this AFV Party, the ultimate party. In fact, I just came back from Germany, and they have, and again, they have hatred against the Jews and the foreigner. They never liked the foreigner. Now, for us, the Jewish people lived very long. They're almost after Christ. When Christianity started, they almost were there at that time. So here is, for instance, the synagogue that I took a picture of in 1966. That was all that was left of our beautiful building, and they put pig food in there. And we don't eat pork. The Muslims don't eat pork either. So it was total making the religion a joke. And they wanted to do that. And next, please. This was built up again now. The synagogue was rebuilt the way it looked from the outside. Inside, you could still see that something happened here. But the tablets are again on top, but they have no more Hebrew value for the Ten Commandments. It is a building that is a cultural building today, where you have many concerts, lectures. I spoke many times there, not only of Jewish things, other things too. And the two most important and beautiful buildings in the village, a small village not much bigger today, is the synagogue, the former synagogue, and the house, the city hall. You know, I've been in Germany just recently, so you get all in German things. Next. Now, they permitted the men to come back again after a few weeks. They had no clue what awaited them. And they had to give up all their clothing, wear those blue and white striped uniforms. And they told my father, you're nothing. You could throw away your iron cross. He was a disabled, honorable German citizen with the iron cross, like the Purple Heart. And they put them on the parade ground. There's a big street, even that's still there. I've been back to Dachau. The barracks are down. But I asked my father, which barrack were you in? Number 16. And they have plaques of all the barracks when you go to the camp to inspect things, as a tourist, so forth. And we put some stones on it because we do that for memory. And he told us what happened. Of course, I was a little girl at that time. I was not even 4 years old. But I remember very clearly what happened on that day. And when they came back, they told the story, how they had to give up all the clothing, and they had to stand at attention in the bitter cold. If someone even wanted to blow their nose, they would hose down with ice cold water, and that happened to my father. In the meantime, only women and children were left in the village. They were breaking all the glass in the window. We had a large house, 18 rooms, and which we had to pay for later. That's why it's called crystalline, because of the glass that's shown by crystal, through the breaking of those glass of the windows, which we had to pay for later on. I remember also standing in the living room as one of the hoodlums saw the chandelier still hanging. and he said, oh, we have to get that chandelier. Threw a big rock through the window, and was standing among all the glass around us. And my mother just pulled me away that I was not hit by that big rock that they threw in. And we were hiding in the backyard shed. We had no clue where the men were. And then later they made us pay for the damage. The band came back, and of course at that time they were very bad shape, mental, physical. They couldn't believe it. Their beloved Germany had forsaken them. Totally. And we tried to get out, but the doors to the free world were closing very rapidly. We tried every which way. We wanted to come to America or to Brazil. My father had already 2 sisters living there, their husbands and families. And we sold the house very cheap and moved in with my grandparents, hoping, against hope, to still get papers and visa to get going. We probably had some visa which would have taken us God knows how many years to get to America. But here in this village where my grandparents came from, little village, 1,000 people in the state of Württemberg. I was born in the state of Baden. Now, those 2 states still hate each other, but they have to be together as one, Baden, Württemberg. And here, at one time, the population of among the 1,000 inhabitants was 40% Jewish. There was a baron who permitted them to stay. They had to sign papers, pay higher taxes. They gave them a street to live on, but they were not allowed to live together with Christians. But that happened more than 250, 300 years ago. And they gave them a place to bury the dead and to slaughter the animals the way we are supposed to do. It's a little different. It's supposedly more humane. How humane it is when you cut the throat, but it's supposed to be more humane. And of course, later on, they were allowed to live together. And my grandparents were the last Jewish family living in that little village called Jetenhausen. It's part of the bigger city, Göppingen. And then you have Stuttgart. You probably have heard about Stuttgart. That's the capital of Württemberg. And I had only Christian friends. And they played with me. And they respected me. And I would say it was a special village. You see, you have choices in life. Are you going to stay a good neighbor that you live hundreds of years next to? Or are you going to join these hoodlums? And I will say that village was a little better, much better, that most of the people treated us with respect. I had Christian friends, we walked up and down the street singing the songs of the day, which were many times Nazi songs. But we didn't even know. And when you look on the left side here, it's hard to see a little building, a bakery. That was the bakery by Albert Einstein's great-grandparents. And I always wanted to be there. For me, you know, I was becoming a scientist and a nerdy kid. And to me, Albert Einstein was my hero. And I always wanted to meet him. And I'm sure he would have invited me because I'm the only child from the state of Württemberg who was in the camp who came back, who survived. The only one. But my mother was able to see him. We didn't know where he lived. He lived in Princeton, but the house, no. I'm so sorry, I never met him. Here's the house of my grandparents. Most Jews, when they settled there, they were not allowed to join the unions. They were cattle dealers in the villages, maybe small shops. My grandfather was a cattle dealer, and the cows in the stable was in the house. That's how it was years ago, to keep the cows warm. So he could have 2 or 3 cows right in the store. In the house was the stable, and here he went up. So those were my happiest days of my very early childhood, maybe 2 years. I was really allowed to be a child. Next. Here's my best friend, Elizabeth. They lived across the street, Christian people. My mother was best friends with her mother, and of course we became best friends for the rest of our life. Unfortunately, she died recently, and I miss her. She was my first ever girlfriend in my life. And of course the doll is always with me. The whole village knew. They either had Marlene, but if you ask somebody, what's the doll's name? Marlene. They all knew. In the village, everybody knew how many people lived there, all the skeletons in the closet, knew everything. And my family lived there over 200 years, also in my hometown. My grandfather died soon after coming out of Dachau. He never wanted to leave. And he was not very old, and he got very sick, both physically and spiritually, and he died luckily in his old age, which my grandmother was not able to. And we gave him a special stone monument. You see all of them are erect, they're beautiful. He only had a plane. And we did that on purpose because at that time the Jewish cemeteries were being desecrated. And we didn't want anything to happen. And nothing did happen, thank God. But the whole grave is sunk now quite deep in the ground, but you could still see the top. Nothing happened in that cemetery. Again, I'm wearing the typical German dress, the German dress. These pictures are extremely rare that you are going to see now. It's about the deportation of the Jewish people in the state of Baden. And every single Jew in the state of Baden, the whole state, was deported in 1940 to a camp called Gurs, G-U-R-S. You probably have never heard of it. It's in the north of France, very close to the Spanish border, the Basque region, very far away. And had we still been there, we would have been deported at that time as well. And here is actual pictures of the deportation of part of my family. Second cousin, third. When you live in a little village like that, you're almost related to everybody. And here's part of my family, second cousin, third, and they were deported as well. And the little boy at the end, he's still alive. The family did survive with great difficulty. They had a visa, I believe, to go to Morocco or something, and they got out with great difficulty. And he had been to school, and they told him, come immediately home, we have to leave. He has his school bag still in his hand. And what's interesting here, the girl standing there, the bystander. And Elie Wiesel says, before he died, a Holocaust survivor who got the Nobel Prize, if you're a bystander, you watch and do nothing, then you're equally guilty. He asked her, what did you think as your friends are being taken away? Well, I just wanted to watch. And in my hometown, things were not quite as good as my grandparents' house, the little village. And there were always some little problems. You had to be a little careful. You didn't show your religion very much. I mean, there was a big synagogue, but you did it, sort of in quiet. And so here they are going, and these pictures were in some kind of box up in the attic, and they wanted to give it to us finally. They're very important because there's almost nothing available of the deportations of the Jews in Germany. We were less than 1%. Only about 500,000 people lived in Germany, Jews. So next. So these pictures are extremely precious. Here's also because in the house they gave them very little time, put the keys on the table, what money you have, put it on the table. And here you see the whole village is watching. There's even a cows there. It's an agricultural village. And we're told to pack a suitcase, whatever you can do, whatever, and leave everything and leave. So here we know who this man was. We told his story that she came to America on time. And he said, that was your father. I said, impossible. My father was an elegant man. He wouldn't travel with a string around his suitcase. Never. because the Jewish people in Germany were extremely integrated, assimilated. Yes, we had our religion, but we were very integrated into the German society. And he died in Auschwitz because the route was Gurs, de Salle, in France, Racy, Auschwitz. Very few people could get out from that camp, and most of them were killed. Now it's time, it's 1940-ish. It's time for me to go to school, but I didn't live in that other state anymore, I was still safe. But Jewish children were no longer allowed to go to the school where they lived. They had one Jewish school for the whole state in Württemberg, in Stuttgart. You had to get permission for that. And in the beginning, my father took me with a bicycle from the village to the train station, and then by train 1 hour. Today it takes about a half an hour. The trains are quicker to take me to school and pick me up. But very soon, there was some slave labor they had to do. And I went all by myself as a little Jewish girl, 6 years old, by myself by train to Stuttgart. I wanted to go to school. It was the school, the Jewish school is the Jewish Community Center. Unfortunately, this building was also bombed, but there's another building on the same plot, and they have the Jewish Center again today, next. And this one of the classes, 1 to 4, 4 to 8, next please. And then it became even more difficult when we had to wear the yellow star. Always from, also from, they had to wear it in Holland, and also there was in France. Of course, in Germany it was Jew, in Hebrew-like letters. It came on the yellow sheet, which we had to pay. And I'm going to show you the star, the real one, what it looked like, which I wore. This is the real star, what it looked like, the size. You'll have to wear it from the age of 6 on, and pay for these stars. No, I don't remember how much they cost. Just always ask me how much do they cost. I don't remember that. It came in a yellow sheet, very bad cloth. My mother would put a backing on that you could sew it on your left side really hard when you walk outside. And I tore that star off when I was liberated May 8, 1945 from the Terezin concentration camp. And you could still see the threads on which you see here too. So I was branded. So I named my first book, I Am a Star, simply because it wanted to make something, I'm a positive person. So I wanted to turn this negative symbol that made me a bad person, which I didn't think. To me, I believe every human being are stars. Every human being has something special, and they deserve the right to live and be happy. So the first book was called I Am a Star. Now, my father told me, try to sit in such a place that you can lean against the left window, that you can cover your star. There were always some some noisy kids and who wanted to bully me, and and I'm a little girl, 6 years old, traveling all by myself. Wasn't always possible. One day there was a woman. She didn't have a star, so obviously she wasn't Jewish, and she walked by me, and she had a little bag of rolls in it, probably her lunch, and she put it next to my seat. I never knew her name, but I appreciated that act. She did not want to be a bystander. And wherever I go and speak, I mention this lady. Whether I'm in Moscow or New Zealand, she is mentioned. And I know she's looking down from above that little Jewish girl never forgot me. And those were the righteous, my heroes. There were two in my life, and she's one of them who didn't have a name, the other one did. Next. Here's what I look like about. Next, please. And school closed about 6 months later because the transports to the east began. And the first transport in that area was to Riga in Latvia. We didn't know where they were going. We had our papers to go to that camp. Every transport was over 1,000 people, but my grandmother was in it. And we tried to get her out. We got out only because my father was a disabled war veteran. That helped at that time. Just the luck. And we had to leave the house, put the keys on the table, my grandparents' house, also a big house, and had to move into the slum area where only Jews could live. And here, for instance, almost the school closed, and there were almost no children left, only a few left. And this is a small group, what happened. There were 1.5 million Jewish children killed. And only one of them, just a really small example, who survived. The girl in the striped hat, that's me. All these other children. All. Next. Now, we had no clue what they were. But since my father had been already an alumnus of such a camp, he said, can't be very good. They didn't tell me what it was, where it was, or the name. Then 6 months later, in August of 1942, we got the papers again. This is the actual first page of my order for transfer, death sentence. We got it in 6 pages. We had on the other side were also all the directions what you have to do. And I gave, they wanted to photograph my papers in the Holocaust Museum in Washington. Very rare that anybody had these orders for transport. Very rare. My mother kept them somehow. And my number became 408, Roman numeral 13-1-408. One thing I find very strange about this document, because Jewish women had to have the name Sarah. So my name was Inga Lisa, my middle name, Sarah Auerbach, and the men had to add the name Israel. I don't see it here, but that's what we got. And they told you what you can take along, and you cannot get out of the transport. Don't bring in medical letters that you're too sick. It doesn't matter. You have to go. And the date on there is a Saturday. Saturdays are our Sabbath, to make it even worse. And this is how the transport was put together. Our transport had about 1,200 people. I was the youngest. I was 7 years old. Next. And there were no pictures at that time. I mean, we had to give up the cameras, everything. And we had to assemble in the school gymnasium. And we had to open everything. And I had a little Dutch boy pin. And the guard tore it off me and yelled at me, oh, you don't need this, but you're going to Sweden dialect. Du brauchst das nicht, wo du hingehst. He took it, just ripped it off. That's nothing. Maybe he had a niece or daughter who liked that pin. And then he saw that I had a doll in my arm. And he took her from me, and I made a fuss. I was not going to let him have my doll. And he looked inside my hollow body, and I was not hiding anything. And so he let me have my doll back. But especially about that little Dutch boy pin, I like pins. And today I'm wearing a butterfly pin. And that became the symbol of the murdered children through the Holocaust. There was a boy in my camp, Pavel Friedman, a Czech boy, who wrote a poem, I Never Saw Another Butterfly. He was killed in Auschwitz. And so we, to honor these butterflies who fly in silence today, unseen, to honor those children who were murdered. And here's a film actually the Nazis took of my grandmother's transport, but we were in the same place only a few months later. In fact, there's one woman in the middle there who's bent over, looks like my grandmother. I can't stand it. But that could be her last picture. And here we were also on the floor waiting in this special two-hall building in Stuttgart for where the transport left next. And standing in line in the morning to get a little food. Next, we have no food where we go, no food whatsoever. And everybody in Germany had an ID, but we had a J on it. That's my ID. And they stand on it, ungesiedelt, 3 seconds, 22nd of August, 1942. Now, when the people saying today the Holocaust denies, there's so much evidence, like Ahmadinejad, wrong, because the ovens in Auschwitz, they bake bread there. I don't think you would like the bread with the ashes of so many people being on those breads. And then we were on the train. So I told you I'm the youngest. I'm 7 years old at that time. I close to 1,200. And it was still a regular train, but very crowded. And the stormtroopers were riding with us. And we're going to a place we don't even know. You could look out the windows and you see a different language. Unknown to us. It was Czechoslovakia at that time. Later on, today it's called the Czech Republic. We arrived after about 2 days. Couldn't get off the train in a place called Auschwitz, a little town before the camp. And we're told, drop everything, you'll get your luggage back, and just what you can carry, metal dishes, a bedroll, a little knapsack. Next. We're walking about 2 miles, and we were tired. We had a lot of old people on that transport that wouldn't walk, and they were whipping us. So my parents put me in the middle that I shouldn't get the blows. Next. Marching into the camp. It's broad daylight. People saw us. Nobody cared. The whole world didn't care. Next. Going into the camp. And we're going into a place called Terezin, or Theresienstadt. It was actually a fortress town built in the late 18th century by Emperor Joseph II in memory of his mother, Maria Theresa. But it was never really used. It had 2 different parts to the fortress. It was surrounded by high brick walls, brick barracks, run-down houses, barbed wire, and wooden fences. And it was a place where you put the intelligentsia of Europe, the highly decorated war veterans, the best musicians that they had, the best artists, the best of everything. They wanted to put them in one place, so if anybody asked, well, they're all in one place, they're not being killed. But that was wrong. It was a transit place. We did not have gas chambers there. They were being built at the end, but they were never completed. But we were under the jurisdiction of somebody like Eichmann. You heard, Eichmann was in charge of all the deportations. He was the leader, the ringleader, and I saw him actually when he was there. Whenever he came, more people were sent out. Everything was like a place you keep like cows or in a stable. When you're ready to kill them, then it goes on. Next. So here's what it looked like. We had many very prominent artists, musicians, and they had to work for the Nazis. But sometimes they stole a paper and a pencil and they drew the conditions that were actually there. This is a transport coming in. And if they were caught, they were immediately shipped to Auschwitz, or the small fortress, which was a terrible place. In fact, it was always a prison. It's where Princip, the Yugoslavia Serbian guy who started World War I when he shot the Hungarian, whatever, person who, one of the high officials, and he was put into Terezin as in the small prison, terrible place. It was as bad as Auschwitz, maybe even worse. He died of tuberculosis there. Terrible place. But then they put Jewish people in there later on. It was the prison for the prison. And here we arrived in one of these brick barracks under the roof, even a higher one. It was hot. And we had to sleep on the plain floor and maybe a blanket and a duffel bag, and it was very hot. And I remember seeing sheets on the floor, and I looked and peeked underneath. And, I'm 7 years old, I'm very inquisitive, and I saw the bodies there. People died like flies, and then the one person from the transport, he was hanging out the window already. He wanted to jump. He said, I cannot take this. This is unbelievable what we will face. And he promised my father, no, I'm not going to do it. Next day he lay in the courtyard. We pumped our water from polluted wells, and it was full of, it was very polluted. So many people had dysentery, typhus. The bathrooms were just latrines, one area for women, then the other side for men. There was no privacy, maybe 2 showers a year with permission. The mothers took the children and the men separate. A very dirty, filthy place, rats, mice, fleas, and bedbugs. Those were our companions. And most men, women, and children had to live separately, but they could still see each other, except the disabled war veterans, highly decorated people, could live together, very primitive, double and triple bed bunk beds. You would live in bunk, that was your home. We shared in a little room like that for 2 out of the 3 years with a family from Berlin. And they had a daughter, Ruth, that became my best friend. Unfortunately, she did not live there. Next. Here, the walls surrounding us, the moats. Jim always said, why can't you just jump down? Well, some people did escape with help from the outside. They needed help. And most of them were caught, and that made life even worse for us. Next. We had 140,000 people there, between 41 and 45. They came mostly from Czechoslovakia and Germany, Austria, Denmark even. There was a time when they were caught. We came to Terezin also, or Theresienstadt, and some other countries. And it was a place you hold them a little while, then you kill them. Every single person had a death sentence on their head. And soon after my arrival, there was an epidemic of scarlet fever, and there were 2 children in every bed. They just set up some rooms. We could not see our parents. Not at all. Until I was just before my 8th birthday, I was allowed to come and join my parents. And I had so many lice in my hair and boils in my body that I was really in very, very bad shape, but I made it. Next. Here's one of the houses where the disabled war veterans lived, very dirty, filthy, rats crawling around, mice. Terrible situation. I remember some of these people that lived with us. One had still an open, draining wound. He had a headshot. One had, our fathers, there were children living there too. One father had an arm off, maybe 2 arms off. I mean, they almost gave their life for Germany, heroes. And this is how they were, that's what they did to thank those people who tried to be good Germans and help the country. That's how and then they killed them afterwards. Next. This picture was taken after liberation by the Russians. And terrible situation, and the pictures double and triple bed bunk beds, very sick people. Next. And these pumps where we pump our water, and try to wash ourselves, with the water from there. Next. Also taken by the Russians. And these cars brought the bread ration. My mother used to put a notch in the bread once a week, just a piece of bread, not even a whole loaf. And she would put a notch in Monday to Tuesday, and then we went the next day. Portion, we didn't have anything to eat. Food was the most important thing in our lives. The other day I'm in the supermarket and I see the guy take all these loads, people who like bread off the shelf. I said, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to leave it to a soup kitchen? Oh no, we have to throw it out because they're outdated. I said, my God, we would have killed to have a piece like that. Killed. The waste we have, it brings back always. For instance, when I go to eat in a restaurant, people always leave us something on the plate, even at home. Tremendously. Take as much as you can eat, and don't throw away food. Food for me was like diamonds. And then they also brought the dead bodies to the crematorium, and a very large crematorium next. Standing in line for food 3 times a day on very long lines. In the morning, you had the little kettle, metal, small, and they put some black liquid for the coffee. It was tasted like detergent, and we cleaned our clothes with it. Lunch was maybe a potato, not a good one, a little turnip, a little portion of turnip, and a murky-looking soup with all kinds of things in there. And the same again at night. And that was the only vegetable I had in 3 years. It got so bad that we found some dandelion leaves and we ate those. So we're not nothing to eat. Thanks. Now, what was done in the camp? We had some slave labor. Some women were used for cutting mica. It's like a stone. You had to peel it off, and women were used for that, for the war effort. Men were also. But what did we children do? We were good for nothing. I mean, I was very young, between 7 and 10. We were rummaged around in a garbage dump, finding a little piece of a rotten turnip that we could cut off a little piece, or potato peeling, a string, anything. And those were our games. Next. My mother worked in so-called old age room, and she never was a nurse before. And I came one morning there. These pictures were done clandestinely. If they were caught, they were either hanged. They had a hanging before we came to the camp, because they tried to smuggle some letters out, or they went to the small fortress where they succumbed. And I come back to have sticks, and it turned out that one of them felt something heavy on his shoulder, and a rat was sitting there. It was just a dirty, filthy place. The worst I can remember happened November 11, 1943, when a count out had to be taken. They knew exactly how many people were there. It was just a ruse to get out of the camp into this ravine, and the soldiers were standing with their guns pointed. They didn't shoot. It was a murky day. Our feet sunk into the mud, raining, no food all day, no bathroom, nothing. And somehow, at the end of the day, and they said, everybody back. Now I read some things that this outfit, this sort of outfit, unquote, quote unquote, was heard on the British radio, BBC, that we are standing 40,000 people, and they probably will be killed, like in Bobby Yard, they will kill other people. And so they decided, orders came from Berlin, everybody back. But they said they were beating us all day long. Many people died on the field, no food, no bathrooms. Men, women, and children separate, and we didn't want to separate. We were holding on to each other with dear life. And there was a very bad assessment. His name was Heino, very brutal guy. And he saw my mother and my father were holding hands, and he took his rifle butt and beat my mother very badly on that day. It was a terrible day. Many people died in the field. Next. School was absolutely forbidden, but Semiroid teachers from memory. We had no school books, nothing. And she taught me a poem. I never knew English before. I wish I were a little bird up in the bright blue sky that sings and flies the swaying will, and no one asks him why. And I think the penmanship was pretty good for a child who only had 6 months of schooling, period. I knew how to read, I knew how to write, at least somewhat. The Czech children had it a little bit better. They had a very good teacher who tried very hard to tell them to draw pictures and so. I didn't have that, so there was nothing. In my entire life, I lost 8 years of education in my life. I did go to college eventually and became a chemist for 38 years in medical research and clinical work. Next. Now, it's 1944 now, and there was news leaking. Now, the world knew there are people being killed, and the International Red Cross was pushed to see one of these camps. And they chose ours, but not before. They beautified it. They sent thousands of people to Auschwitz who didn't look good anymore. They didn't want to show all this crowding and everything. And they painted some houses, just a certain area, put up signs to school, to play, but none of this existed. And they put up even a children's opera, Brundi Bar, for them to see. Gave some children sardine sandwiches. I have a girlfriend who was one, not me, I was not chosen. And they had to say, oh, Han was our last commandant. They have so many sardine sandwiches, we were sick of them. And they even made money, they printed money, which was like monopoly money. You couldn't buy anything, but maybe a little mustard, which made you even more hungry. Next, what they didn't show them was the crematory. They made even a film at that time, the Führer gives the Jews a city. And they gave a good report, imagine. I mean, they see what's going on, and they believe this faith. And as soon as they were away, almost the whole camp was sent to Auschwitz. They had selections, and my father had to go for when the disabled war veterans were selected, together with my girlfriend's father, who was half Jewish, and her mother was totally Jewish, and she was brought up in the Christian religion. She considered herself Christian. Her name was Ruth, from Berlin. I was deep south. She was the big city girl, and I was the country girl. Next. And I was jealous of her because she was going to go on the train. I wanted to get out of this household. I had no clue. And out of those 140,000 people who went through terrorism from 41 to 45, we came in August 42, 2/3 would be shipped to Auschwitz or other killing centers, mainly Auschwitz, and close to a third there died of malnutrition. We were 15,000 children, perhaps about 1% survived under the age of 50. And I'm one of those very, very lucky children. Finally, on May 8th, 1945, we were liberated by the Russian army, Soviet army, but not before they threw in hand grenades. I remember I heard the cars going away, the trucks, and I jumped one of the barricades to see what's going on. And just as I did, there was a tremendous explosion. And I touched my head, I thought my head was off. And they were throwing hand grenades into the camps, because they wanted to still kill. And you can't, these people really did not have a conscience at all. Even to the very end, they wanted to kill people, to the very last day of the war in Europe. And finally, we found a dark cellar to hide. My father had been a soldier. He said, we must find safety. They're throwing in hand grenades. And one person had a tiny little candle. And all I took that day was a prayer book that my father found in the garbage. It belonged to a former soldier. What a soldier would have, a small prayer book. I never lost faith in God. I never did. I prayed to God. We have a very special prayer. You have the Our Father, which is your highest prayer. We also have one, that God is one, one is God. It's called the Shema, which is said a few times a day. We put it outdoors, posts, and especially when when you're in danger, you say, when I go onto a plane, I say, and it goes like this, our prayers are sung. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, God is one. And that goes, the whole idea of the Jewish religion, that they believe in one God. Monotheism, that's the first religion. And so they came, but we had a terrible typhus epidemic, and we couldn't go home right away. And we realized by them, and I think one of the people who spoke before said, at liberation, it wasn't like jubilation. Yes. It was muted jubilation. We knew already at that time that our families had been killed for the most part. So who's still alive? Where are we going to go next? And we have some of the people from the death marches, because we were probably the last camp to be liberated. But the other side, Auschwitz, was liberated already in January 27th, 1945. By us, it came in May 8th. And a lot could have happened between January and May. And so here's some of the people who came from all these terrible places. They still wanted to kill those people. And the gas chambers were almost complete. They were never used. They were incomplete still. But they wanted to kill, even so late in the war, still kill us. Next. And from our transport of close to 1,200, my mother told me there were 13 survivors, perhaps a few more. But a whole family intact, which was a miracle. Mother and father, they couldn't believe it. And after I started school again, I didn't know where. I belonged to the 4th grade, 5th. I never even finished my 1st grade. But after 9 months in Germany, we decided to come to America. And because President Truman opened the doors to us, God bless him for doing that, and we came to America. And my mother had already a brother here. My parents got a job. I made it very quick. They worked as a couple. My mother became a housekeeper, a maid in this rich house. My father a butler. And there was a girl in the camp who we told, don't go near her. She has a terrible sickness. But she got a little bit more food, an extra piece of bread, maybe watered down milk. And I'm hungry. I want to have what she has. Can't be so bad. And I got this terrible cold when I came for a few weeks in America. I knew I was sick before, but I was better. And where we were living, the lady in charge, the house mother, and she had children too, the owner of the house, this mansion. Said, well, I don't mind, she's coughing too much, I have children and this. So she took me to the doctor, and the doctor tested me with x-rays, so forth, and said, I have tuberculosis of both lungs, very critical. I need to go to the hospital immediately. Now think about it. I'm in the prison for 3 years, and now I have to be in bed for another 2 years without getting off my bed. Another prison sentence. And I was in the children's hospital. One ward was polio, the other one tuberculosis. Very sick children. I was probably the sickest one in the ward. And there was no cure at that time. Either you lived or you died. Staying in bed, resting. Good now. So my parents by that time lived in Brooklyn. We had an apartment, 3rd floor up. And still though, I was not well. And finally, in fact, I got worse up to the point of hemorrhaging. Very bad. Couldn't even sit up in bed anymore. And finally, we changed doctors. And they said, well, there's an experimental drug now, and let's try it. I mean, I would have died right there. There was no hope for me. It was streptomycin. And many years later, I found a man who had co-discovered it. We wrote a book together. In fact, the film is now on YouTube. You could see made a film about finding Dr. Schatz. And I got better. And finally, it took about another year, 2 very painful injections. Another year in bed, but it got better. And age 15 was the first time that I really could be a teenager. I went to school, I was so happy. But I went to summer school every year to try to save one a year. I didn't want to be the oldest one in my class, 19 years old, to graduate from high school. And during that time, I finished high school and started college. Within about 6 weeks, I got sick again. Again, in bed for a year, 2 shots of streptomycin and 26 new pills. In fact, I just read that they are getting also bad situation with this new drugs. And 26, it made me very sick, this chemotherapy, and 2 shots again. And then after a year, I went back to school and got my degree in chemistry. I wanted really to be a doctor, but I went actually to Germany. I was a little older at the time. I really felt healthy again. And I heard German Nazi songs being sung in 1968. And I stopped. I didn't even start school yet, but I couldn't stand it. So I called up my mother, I'm coming home. So she said, well, I told you not to go. Why don't you listen to your mother? So all of you, listen to your mother and father. They know best. So I went to work, then back to the hospital where I was working. I wanted to go back to Europe the first time. And so this was, Terrorism was just a Czech word for it. Near Prague, and eventually the gate that I originally went to, 42. And I wanted to see, I must have killed it. Next. And I went to the gate that I originally went to when I was 7 years old. Next. And to the house where we lived, we were very dirty still. Today, people are living there again at the time. But it's a very poor little town, very poor, and the houses have been rebuilt and cleaned up, obviously, in all these years. Next. And this was the train street from here. The tracks were built straight to Auschwitz. Next. And this is a crematorium with the mayor there. They have a mayor there again. Next. And 4 others. And it's probably one of the best preserved crematorium of all the camps. And many people are going there. It's a memorial, huge memorial. Many students are taken there. Next. And part of the memorial, even bigger than this today, took people there already too. Next. And then I wanted to go back to the people who helped us, the righteous, the people who chose good farmers, who in the middle of the night brought us some food. We could have gotten killed for that, but they chose good. And you probably are asking, how did she get all those pictures? Well, my grandmother had a maid, a good friend of hers for many years, and she saved 2 photo albums, put them in the basement, and our prayer books, and a few knickknacks. So when we came back, we said, we want to see Teresa. And I said, she's not alive. She's young, healthy. When the Americans came to that part of Germany, they thought everybody, was shooting out at them. She didn't open the door right away, stayed behind the front door. The soldiers shot through the door, instantly killing her. And I like to think that here is a Christian woman, a Jewish woman forever united up there. One killed by a Nazi bullet. My grandmother was killed in the forest near Riga. And I went there, I went to see the place. I was never the same ever since, believe me. I was in Auschwitz, but when I saw these mass graves, you walk into this beautiful forest, and you walk a certain lane up the hill, and there's one mass grave after another, over 50, and there were over 50,000 in that one forest alone who were killed, massacred. And I say, they look down, a Christian and a Jewish woman forever united. I'm still friends with the great-grandchildren that she had. It became family, and that's how we save the pictures. And that is her grave, and I honor her till I die. Now, next please. This was, I had a good friend I told you about, Ruth, and I never forgot that she was exactly my age. She was sent to Auschwitz, but she had no clue where she was going. Her father was a disabled war veteran. She considered herself Christian. And I was looking for a picture of her for years and years. I visited the house where she lived in. She would have been a great artist. She had so much talent. And I put a little story on the internet in a German newspaper, the Tagesspiegel, the Spiegel in Berlin. And they have a real paper and also online. And he put the story in the paper, online and in the paper, that I'm looking for my best friend. She lived here. Does anybody have a picture? And two people answered me very shortly. One was a reporter from America. He wanted the story. He was good for nothing. What is he going to have? So, and the second one was a genealogist, a woman who started to search. She actually found some relatives who were living now in Germany, and they had a picture, that picture, when she was maybe the older picture, when she was maybe 3-4 years old. And I was so happy to have that picture. I don't remember her. She was 8 years old when I met her. And right now, a few weeks ago, I met those people. It was unbelievable to meet family from hers, distant cousins, but still. And one day, I'm sitting at my kitchen table. I write all my books by hand. And I thought that, how did she feel as she went with her mother into the gas chamber? I mean, they didn't know what was going to be. You know, a shower. Okay, so you take a shower. And I wrote this poem in my book about her. And I want to read it to you. And it's education. And it's called Hold Me Tight. Because they had absolutely no clue what was going to happen. Her mother, and her mother is trying to give hope where there is no hope. Come with me, my child. Hold my hand. Be calm, my child. Do not try to understand. Don't be afraid, my child. Walk with pride. You know your mother is here at your side. Hold me tight. Day has turned to night. Hold me tight. Soon we'll see the light. She's giving hope. No, no, don't look at the chimneys. See the blue sky. My arms around to protect you. Don't cry. Come close. Let the blows fall on me. There'll be a day when again we'll be free. Hold me tight. Day has turned to night. Soon we'll see the light. Give all your belongings to them. Quickly undress. One day soon, we will again have happiness. Sleep, my child. I have no more to give. Oh God! Oh God! We're not going to live. Hold me tight. Day has turned to night. Oh. They're on Amazon as well. The Time and Star is in 8 languages and 30 in print. Even in Germany, everywhere. So here's the book. There are only 6-7 copies. If you're interested about it.
So we have a couple of questions.
Okay,
I'd
please.
like to take advantage of that we have.
They're very good. Because the chances are not going to be too many more. They won't. Yes. Who has a question? I want to hear from the young people back there. Please ask me. Don't think it's stupid to ask. No question is stupid not to ask. So I'd like to hear some questions from you. But you don't have to run around. You can just stand up and say something.
Can you shout? Can you stand up and
Shout
ask
it
the
out.
question?
You don't want to waste one video. Yes, please.
What was the thing you were going to miss most after you left, like on your way to the campus, the thing you were going to miss most back at home?
Can you repeat
The question was, what did you think you were going to miss most as being important? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we were proud Germans. Could you ever think that this is going to happen to you? Yes, you could be beaten up and so, but not to be killed. I mean, my father knew already what a camp looked like after Dachau, but to be killed, that was not on our agenda. No. Anybody? Yes, I would like to hear.
Do you still have the doll?
The doll is in the Holocaust Museum in Washington. She was on display for a time, but now they're afraid she's too brittle. Well, I tell you, I might even take her out, and I might want to be buried with her. That's how much she means to me. Yes.
We'll have one, I think, one more here, right? Yes, which last one? Yeah.
Do you have a family?
No, I never got married, and well, the children of the world are my children. One thing you haven't asked me, do I forgive? That's very important on my agenda. I will never forgive the people who were the actual killers, no. But I do believe in reconciliation. I have many wonderful friends in Germany who were born after the war, and there are some who were good to us too, like Elizabeth, and so I have one childhood friend left. And I tell you an example of that. I was in Auschwitz a few times, and Auschwitz is huge. You go to Auschwitz I, that's a smaller camp, and then Birkenau is big. You have to walk about 2 miles to get to Birkenau. And I didn't feel like walking that long walk, and I heard German spoken. Oh my God, German. I go over, I speak German too. I was in another camp, and not here, but I was in a camp too. And they told me they were a whole family. They had an interpreter from Polish to German. And the first thing we did, a young group of people, we embraced. And that, to me, is reconciliation. But the killers, the Mengeles, all these terrible people, I cannot. That's for God to do. A murder on such a scale is, you cannot even imagine, and the brutality. But, you know, the murderers I can never forgive, not ever. That's for God to do. That's not for human beings to do.
That seems like a really good note to end on. Please join me in thanking HAR-BER.